Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to another conversation here on behalf of ISKCON Ministry for Education. We're talking about the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada's books. My name is Krishna Prem Rupa Das from ISKCON Zurich. And today we have a special guest with us, His Holiness Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Good to see you again.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking your time.
Thanks for inviting me.
It's our pleasure, our honor. Of course, most of you will know Maharaj. Maharaj has been serving ISKCON for over 30 years. He's a disciple of His Holiness Indradyumna Maharaj, originally from Russia. Has been serving in many different capacities in ISKCON as a Sankirtan leader, as a temple president, regional secretary. Has been traveling for many years throughout Russia, USA, Japan, Europe. And in 2016, Maharaj accepted the renounced order of life, sannyas. And also, personally, I feel the way I got to know Maharaj, he's a very visionary thinker in ISKCON, usually always a few steps ahead of many other people with his thinking. And he also has created a leadership school in Mayapur, has many different projects to help ISKCON in many ways. And we'll speak about some of these topics also. But maybe let's start with the introduction to you, and also how did you came in touch with Srila Prabhupada's books? What was your first encounter with Prabhupada's books, and was there anything significant you like to share with us?
Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting question, because I literally came in touch with Prabhupada books without coming in touch with devotees, because I read about Krishna consciousness in one blasphemous article in communist times, and I was thinking, this must be good people, because communists were my sworn enemies. So I was thinking, the enemy of my enemy should be my friend. So I started looking for any information on devotees, and started asking my friends around. And at that time, devotees were heavily prosecuted. Many were in jail, and those who were not in jail, they were underground. So they were unwilling to freely communicate with the public. So it was pretty difficult to find the devotees. So I was asking my friends, and one of my friends said, yes, I know some devotees. I know some Hare Krishna people. And I asked him, how can I learn more about them? And he said, they have books, and I'll bring you something from their books. So he brought me the very first book, which was Easy Journey to Other Planets. And just to give you an idea how far from the reality was his perception, what these books are about. At the time, on the cover of the Easy Journey, there was a yogi depicted with chakras. And he said, look, that these entry points in the body are for non-verbal communication, but we cannot use them because we are not advanced enough spiritually. So, but once we advance, we will become telepathic. So this was his idea, what the book is teaching. Never opened it himself. So he was just judging the book by the cover. So anyway, I was intrigued, because I was also intrigued about developing paranormal abilities. So I started reading the book. And of course, nothing of this sort was in the book, but still there was a lot about yoga, meditation, karma, reincarnation, etc. And I was very much interested to learn more. And then the book was referring to Bhagavad Gita, practically on every page. And I've realized that Bhagavad Gita must be the foundational book. And then I came back to him, I said, this is very interesting one, but can you get me Bhagavad Gita? They must have Bhagavad Gita as well. And his face changed. He said, he looked very scared. He said, if anyone will see us with this book, we will both go to jail for a very long time. So I cannot risk. So I had to plead with him for a long time. And then finally he agreed. But he said, I'll just briefly show you the book. That's maximum I can do. So he brought Bhagavad Gita and I flipped through it. And it was so exciting. You know, every single question I always had in my life, obviously this book had answers. And I said, can I borrow this book and read? He said, no, it's too risky. I was offering him money and he still refused. He said, I don't want to go to jail. And so no matter, you know, how much I begged him, he refused, and he took Bhagavad Gita back, and I never saw it again. And he said, don't ask me again. That was, you know, the only exception I made, and that's it. And then I was thinking, okay, anyway, I'll try to find this book from somebody else. But no matter how much I inquired, nobody else had any clue. And I was going around bookshops and I couldn't find it. And so it was anything between 2 and 3 years. I was constantly looking for Bhagavad Gita and I couldn't find it. And as it often happens, exactly when I lost all hope that I will ever see Bhagavad Gita again in my life, and I was walking down the street, and then I saw a young man who approached me, and he said, you seem to be interested in something spiritual, because I was kind of hippie type, with long hair and etc., beard. And, you know, only this type of people in communist Russia were obviously kind of, you know, interested in spiritual things. So he knew he is safe with me. And when he came, he said, I have some spiritual books you might be interested in. And I immediately felt he must have Bhagavad Gita. And then this was the first book he pulled out. And I was so excited. And I was thinking, you know, I might have to borrow this book from him, pay him money. And I was not even dreaming that I could have my own copy of Bhagavad Gita. But suddenly he said, if you like, you can take this book and just give me some, you know, he quoted some ridiculously low price. I was thinking, this man is crazy. He's ready to part with such a, you know, valuable book for nothing. Anyway, I quickly gave him whatever he was asking, got Bhagavad Gita. And I had no idea, of course, about book distribution at the time. And I came back home, I started literally consuming Bhagavad Gita page by page. I was so excited. Finally, I found what I was looking for. And I could not, you know, control my ecstasy. I had to share it with all my friends, relatives, you know, like I was inviting people and reading something from Bhagavad Gita, discussing with them. Some people were interested, other people were not. I lost some of my friends over the issue because they felt that they didn't like it. Like one of my friends, he was Jewish and he was working very, very hard trying to make some money to immigrate to Israel. And so I invited him, and somehow it just came that I've read to him that verse in the 7th chapter, Namam Dushkritino Mudha Prapajanta Naradama, where the 4 types of people who never accept Krishna consciousness are described. And of course, the first one is fools, mudas, who are like asses. And of course, in the Purport, Prabhupada describes hardworking people as stupid asses who are just wasting human life. And I was, expecting him to become excited after listening to that. But he was so, disturbed and angry after listening to the purport. He said, "So your book tells me that I'm an ass because I'm working so hard. I don't want to know you. I don't want to know your book anymore." So I lost him. It was a very interesting experience. And then another friend of mine, he was some kind of son of a minister or, somebody. So even though, like, at that time in communist Russia, mostly people were poor, but his family was fabulously rich. He had the best, luxurious apartment in the central place, and, filled with different collections of ancient paintings and whatnot. And he loved to invite his friends. He was young. He was maybe 19 or 18. And mostly we were like 17, 18, something like that. He was a bit older than us. And he loved to kind of, project himself as kind of aristocratic guy, with best manners. And he was giving like gifts to some expensive gifts. So obviously he was trying to impress everyone how special he is. But he was quite well educated. He knew philosophy, so you could hold conversation with him on any topic. And I was thinking he must be the guy with whom we could discuss Bhagavad Gita. And then I showed him the Bhagavad Gita. I said, this is the ancient book on Indian philosophy, Indian spiritual philosophy. And to my surprise, he said, "I never even heard of this book." I have to admit. And then, he was a little bit ashamed of that he was supposed to know everything, but he never even heard of the book, which was read by Goethe and so many other prominent personalities. And then with great respect, and of course, this book was printed underground. It was a legal book, so it added some, some special flavor to the whole thing. And then he opened Bhagavad Gita somewhere in the middle. I suppose he landed in chapter 9 or 10, where Krishna speaks about, well, probably 10, where Krishna speaks about his opulences elaborately. And I looked at his face, and first he was like really respectful, then he looked confused, and then he looked disturbed. And towards the end, he became really angry. And he said, he looked at me and he was literally shaking. He said, "Who is that Krishna anyway?" I said, "Well, Krishna is the Supreme Lord." And he said, "If he is really the Supreme Lord," and he started shouting and he started using swear words, which was complete shock. He said he should be more modest and should not brag like that openly. And he threw the Bhagavad Gita into my hands. And he continued shouting and swearing. And, I was not alone. There were some other friends. And we just looked at him and we looked at each other. And it was as if he became, ghostly hunted. Or he went berserk or something. And we just excused ourselves and we left the apartment, and we were like looking at each other. What happened to the guy? That was completely confusing. But later I found out, by reading Prabhupada books, that this guy was thinking he is God. And then he came across real God and he could not tolerate the competition. So he blew up and everything he was hiding inside came out. All his envy towards Krishna just exploded. That was a very interesting experience. So anyway, Bhagavad Gita was really exciting. My first, well, maybe not first, but, foremost book. And I'm still reading Bhagavad Gita and still discovering new heights. And so, yeah, Prabhupada's books have so many levels. And yeah, he was telling that these books are so great because these are not my books, these are Krishna's books, which is true.
Thank you so much. giving us some insight in these early days of the Russian yatra. I mean, it's quite a different situation where you have to find the right people to get the books. And you mentioned Bhagavad Gita, of course, as a very, very important book in your life. We just heard how this book has changed your life. I also remember in the past you have given often seminars on the Bhagavad Gita, specifically also on how to apply Gita in today's life. Would you like to say something about that? How Gita, and especially Prabhupada's translation, is relevant even today very much?
Yeah. I was thinking because, there is no use of information without transformation. It's very interesting that His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, who of course was very, very prominent leader, probably the most prominent of all ISKCON leaders up to date, because he's the only one whose day is celebrated in Washington, D.C. every year, Day of John Favors. That's on the government's calendar. So, and he started this IFAST, Institute for Applied Spiritual Technologies in America, which is growing now despite of his physical absence pretty rapidly. And now it became part of the URI, of course, which was the creation of Yoguru Maharaj, United Religions Initiative. Now they became representatives of the URI, multi-region representatives, which makes me very happy that we are reaching to the new heights. But his motto, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj's motto, is from information to transformation. And of course, if there is if Prabhupada's books only providing some interesting information, but there is no transformation, then, it doesn't serve the purposes. So we want transformation. And I was thinking that the closest thing which would be connected to transformation is personal development, which does help people. Of course, is not helping everybody, because some people still just get the information, but they don't do anything with it. So what's the point? But if someone takes it seriously, they can actually achieve some transformation. And I spoke with some Prabhupada disciples who were like-minded, are like-minded. One of them, for example, is Mahatma Prabhu. And so he told me how effective were some of the personal development courses he took, and he shared certain points about it. And I was thinking that actually it happened that my first thinking in that direction happened after I took the very first personal development course, which really affected my life positively, from two Prabhupada disciples. Well, one was not Prabhupada disciple, Dwarakadish, but he's that famous boy who grew up in Gurukul, and Prabhupada personally taught him how to write Sanskrit. So he was one of the facilitators, and they conducted 7 Habits course based on Stephen Covey's book. And they actually took the course themselves, and then they converted it to become compatible with Krishna consciousness, which was not a hard thing to do because there are so many common points. And I really felt that it helped me in so many ways. And I was thinking that we should have personal development courses based directly on Bhagavad Gita. So this became my dream. And then I was thinking I should do it. But then one devotee told me, if you could present Bhagavad Gita as personal development course, that would really attract professional people. And he was a he is an influential businessman himself. And so on his request, I compiled the first pilot personal development course based on Bhagavad Gita. And so many professionals came to that course, and actually a number of them became devotees. So I realized, okay, it works. And then I started teaching that to more devotees. And actually, yeah, I got good feedback from many devotees, combining professional transformational techniques with principles of Bhagavad Gita.
That's impressive, how to combine these two worlds. And of course, Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is also is very unique amongst the different Gita versions that are existing. And Srila Prabhupada also himself said that he would forever live in his books. Do you have some realization on this? Like, how can we experience Srila Prabhupada by reading his books, Bhagavad Gita, other books, Prabhupada? Do you have some personal realization on that? Would you like to share with us?
I can share a realization how I experienced presence of Prabhupada by not reading his books.
Okay.
Which is an interesting side to it. Because at certain point, I was really absorbed in book distribution because I was Sankirtan leader at the same time. And my understanding Sankirtan leader has to be the best book distributor as well. So I was making a lot of effort in book distribution, but I was neglecting reading the books because I was thinking exactly in the same way as Prabhupada described it, that he said, some devotees think that I wrote these books for distributing to other people and they don't read these books themselves. So I was exactly in that mindset, like I'll just distribute Prabhupada books and then Divya Gyan Hrida Prakashito. Then divine knowledge will just manifest in my heart. I don't need to read, study, this and that. It's for neophytes. I'm already advanced enough about that. And I was distributing books. And at some point, I felt that, it's getting harder and harder to convince people about the books. I'm losing my spiritual strength. Until at one point, I really ran myself into the ground. And it happened when I came to one man. And you know how it is. I'm sure you have good experience of book distribution yourself, that you have the eye contact with the person, and if he maintains the eye contact, you have a good chance, right? And then this man was looking at me, and I came to him and I said, I have wonderful books for you. Please look at them. But it was very interesting that he was not taking his eyes off me. He was not even looking at the book. And I gave the book into his hand, and he took the book, and then he showed the book to me, and he said, he didn't even look at the book. He said, you have to read these books yourself before you offer them to other people, and gave me back the book. That was serious experience for me. I was thinking, oh my God, it's so obvious I'm not reading these books, but even outside people can see that so clearly. That was a big wake-up call for me.
Yeah, these books can be quite alive, or of course book distribution, as we know, can be quite an amazing experience, how Paramatma is interacting with us.
Yeah.
Or Srila Prabhupada in that sense also.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that by not reading Prabhupada's books, we are running into danger. And by reading regularly, it says that we can learn, we can sharpen our intelligence by daily studying, especially regularly reading. And it's also mentioned that the more we read Prabhupada's books, the more we develop, which is called Shastra Chakshu, that we learn to see the world through the eyes of scriptures. Would you like to share something on that? How in your personal life, you mentioned how you got Bhagavad Gita and how it changed your life. What does it mean to see the world through the eyes of Shastra?
Yeah, I mean, I had one experience with Bhakti Govinda Maharaj. We were walking with him, and we came across, it was a countryside, and we came across one place where there were so many, hens, and of course the hen have the habit that when they see people, they think they will get some food. So they came to us, but we had nothing. Of course, if we would have prasadam, it would be good to give to them. But it was very interesting how Maharaj looked at them and he said, "You're so foolish. If you would know why people here are feeding you, what is the motivation for feeding you, you would escape from here a long time ago. But because you are so foolish, you will stay in here." And I was thinking, this is a typical situation in the material world. Prabhupada describes that we are enslaved by material energy, and we don't know that the kind of sense gratification we're getting is meant for our slaughter. But finally, we're going to be slaughtered by this sense gratification. So it's not just Prabhupada's books, but it's the association of exalted personalities which help us to realize Prabhupada's books.
Yeah, those who live according to books, those who have absorbed the qualities developed through the study.
Yeah.
Now, you yourself, you have started a school, a leadership school in Mayapur. It's called the Ideal Innovative Development to Empower Authentic Leadership. And with this school, you like to help devotees to get empowered, to actually that the devotees can implement ambitious projects that actually would really help to make a difference in the world, and also to find ways how ISKCON devotees and leaders can connect with the world outside there, and cooperate with other spiritual-minded people. Would you like to tell us something about the school and how you came with the idea to start such a project? And maybe also, where do you see the connection with Prabhupada's teachings and the school that you started?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question. Actually, I was thinking more and more by reading Prabhupada's books, because Bhagavad Gita is pretty emphatic about it. Chapter 4 says, "Evam parampara praptam emam rajarshaya vidu," that this knowledge was passed by the chain of disciplic succession, and this is how the saintly kings were learning this knowledge. So actually, it's very obvious that Prabhupada books are meant for leaders of the world. And our position, as he described, is just postman, right? We're just delivering the good. So, of course, we can benefit as well from applying applying Krishna consciousness in our own lives. But in terms of serious impact, serious change in the society, which Srila Prabhupada was so anxious about, that only leaders of a high caliber are capable of producing such a change. And that's the reason, it's like really interesting how much time and attention, especially in Bhagavatam, is given to the great kings. And every time, there is an example of a great king taking care of the subjects and running the kingdom perfectly, Prabhupada goes at great length explaining how important it is, right? And so if you think, oh, these books are for me only, you might be wondering, why Prabhupada speaks about great kings so much, and why Bhagavatam speaks about great kings. Am I supposed to become king or what? But no, because these books primarily meant for this category. But these people, how will they ever learn in the first place? So how do we make them interested even to look into Prabhupada books? And of course, the best way to make them interested is to show what kind of transformation these books produce in people and in society. And we do have good examples. For example, certain devotees who are, like same Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj or Yoguru Maharaj, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, who are, of course, high-level professionals focused on the first purpose of ISKCON, on this social, spiritual purpose. And they produced huge impact on the society on a very large scale with their preaching, with their work. So, and we do have devotees who have the kind of potential to do something big and innovative and reaching out and making big impact. And if we are to invest in anything, that we should be investing in these kind of people, in future leaders. And with this idea in mind, I started thinking that we should have this school. But of course, who am I? I'm just a neophyte sannyasi. And I don't have so much professional knowledge and experience, but we have much greater leaders in ISKCON who could be teaching. And so I thought, let me just become a facilitator to bring together all these high-level professionals who are quite a few, not, of course, abundance, but we do have wonderful teachers in ISKCON. And so somehow the sannyas helped me in that sense, because I was taken seriously by these wonderful teachers, trainers, and I managed to encourage them to come and teach. And I have to admit that the greatest difficulty is to find the kind of creative young leaders in ISKCON who would be willing, because it's pretty hard, I must say, because it's kind of uncharted territory in that sense. Even though we are trying our best to support our graduates, but they have to do a lot of work on their own to create their own projects. And of course, to find those devotees who are willing to go at length. Of course, one of them is Divya Singhavru from Zurich, and we know that he has to struggle a lot to establish himself, but I'm glad I've helped him out to, because he was just employed, right? And I've managed to convince him to step out of that role and become self-employed and create his own project, which is working quite well at the moment, I believe. And so we have quite a few of other graduates like that, our alumni. And so, but this is what I'm thinking, that if we invest into these young leaders and help them to establish themselves, become success in all respects, and create the social spiritual projects, that can become a wonderful model for others. And they will be definitely helping others as well, because, it tends to go like that. If someone helps me without expecting anything in return, then I think, okay, this is the system. I should be also helping others without any expectations in return. So this was the kind of logic behind creating the ideal school.
Wonderful. I like the approach that actually Prabhupada's books are meant for kings or for influential leaders, and how to present the books. We need our own influential spiritual leaders who can connect with them, and so that's an interesting approach. And I think it's wonderful that you created that school and try to help devotees to reach their full potential.
Thank you.
Yeah. Speaking about the future, what would you think, Maharaj, if now every member of ISKCON would start to read Srila Prabhupada's books every day, very seriously for an hour, 2 hours, how would that change ISKCON in the future? If every member would read Prabhupada's books daily, what would that have an impact for our future as an institution worldwide?
Well, it can help in many ways. And first and foremost thing, sometimes we might think that reading Prabhupada books is meant for knowledge. And actually, that's one of the reasons why devotees kind of read Prabhupada books once, twice, maybe thrice, and then they think, okay, I got it all, I know it all, why do I need to read it again? But actually, I believe that reading Prabhupada books is association with Srila Prabhupada directly. And, association with the pure devotee, we know how beneficial it is. And Prabhupada said that the best of me is in my books. And so that's why, if we associate with Srila Prabhupada regularly, we can really bring Srila Prabhupada's presence very strongly in our own midst and to the world. We can, again, enable Srila Prabhupada preach very powerfully.
Thank you. You just mentioned it's not about just information, but it's about applying transformation. You also mentioned. What would you say? What can we do to ensure that we actually start to apply this transcendental knowledge?
Well, I think application will come automatically once devotees will start studying the books very seriously, because the entire science of Krishna consciousness is explained in them. But if I just know bits and pieces, it might not work. So in order to get the whole picture, it's really important to analyze all Prabhupada's books at length. And then it will happen automatically, I believe. But in order to encourage devotees to start studying Prabhupada books, I think that will take a lot, because somehow, just yesterday we had one session with Russian devotees, and I was asking them for reasons, and many of them that they brought two main reasons. One is laziness, and the other one is lack of time, which are kind of connected to each other, because I don't have time for things I don't really have interest in. Because if I'm interested in something, I will make time, right, for that. And so that is to create that interest, to create that impetus in devotees. That's, I think, the biggest challenge.
How to overcome these obstacles? You mentioned some laziness or no time, or there is other obstacles. Sometimes people are tired, they fall asleep while reading, or there's different obstacles. But what would you suggest how to, if someone says, okay, after I've watched this video with His Holiness Bhakti Rasayana Sagar Maharaj, I want to read every day. What would you tell them how to start getting more enthusiasm to do that?
Yeah. Well, we can see for ourselves, for example, I might also sometimes, neglect reading Prabhupada's books because, I might be too busy or whatever. But I know for sure that if I'm accountable, for example, if I have to teach this subject, right, I have to study. Luckily, I have enough teaching engagements, so that forces me to study Prabhupada's books. But it's really important to be accountable, to have the accountability. So if, because if we are not accountable, then we become accountable to our own minds, and we can always make a good deal with our minds, right? As one Buddhist monk said, our monkey minds can always play good tricks with us.
So that, Maharaj, it means you would say it would be good to team up with other devotees and then check each other, or
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Firstly, to have motivation, and second, to have accountability. That should really help.
Yeah, I think that's very wonderful and helpful tips. Is there anything you would like to share with us at the end? Some realization or some last tips how we can be encouraged to read Prabhupada's books?
Yeah, there is one kind of experience I'm offering to the devotees when I'm doing my training course on Bhagavad Gita. And one is to show them how Krishna is present in Bhagavad Gita. And so what I'm doing is I'm telling the devotees, think of a serious problem you're facing. And then next one is think of a number between 50 and 850. And they just come up with a number. But then I'm telling them that the number is the number of the page in Bhagavad Gita, which gives the answer to your question or solution to your problem. And first of all, I'm really enjoying people like studying so deeply that page, looking for the solution. And second of all, that they share so many realizations that they actually discovered the solution. So it's really interesting, how when it comes to practical matters, people become very much motivated, and but actually there are solutions at every page in Prabhupada's books. But if we don't understand, it's like the story of the beggar and the king, that the king at one point, he saw the beggar from the porch, from the veranda on his palace. And then that beggar, he was going every day through one like little street to his crossroads where he was begging. And the king was thinking, poor beggar, I want to help him. And so he sent his servant to place a bag with gold coins on the path where the beggar was going before he came, to make it as a surprise for him. So he discovered that bag of gold coins because, the king wanted to do the charity anonymously. And he wanted to enjoy the fun, how the beggar would discover that gold coin and how all his misfortune will be over. And so the servant quickly went down and he placed that bag of gold coin on that little street pathway. And then it just happened so that when the beggar was approaching that little pathway, he was thinking, I'm going through there for so many years, and I know every nook and corner there. So I'm curious if I could pass by with my eyes closed and not bumping into anything. And then he decided to make that experiment. He closed his eyes and he went through, and he never bumped into anything, including the bag of gold coins. And then he went on. And the king was lamenting, oh, poor guy. He missed his great fortune. So I was thinking, if we read Prabhupada books like that, without understanding how much value is there, unfortunately, we're going to be missing on so many valuable treasures which are contained in Prabhupada's books. But if we are motivated, then we will discover them.
I like this experience you shared, how interesting in reading this particular page, because they feel there is a very specific information meant for me, very personal. But as you said, actually that's always available for us if we just develop the right, attitude, the inquisitiveness, and the understanding that actually Krishna is talking to us through Bhagavad Gita, that Prabhupada is talking to us through his purports. Yeah. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I was thinking that, Srila Prabhupada was telling about the deities, that if you think that the deities are just stone statues, they will remain stone statues for you forever. But if you realize that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one day Krishna will talk to you through the deity. So I think the same exact point applies to Prabhupada books. If we just think these are just books, we will never realize their true value. But if we realize actually they are non-different from the deity, they are non-different from Krishna, then these books will talk to us and will, help us in so many ways.
Thank you so much, Mamash. That should give us plenty of inspiration to read.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I hope I'll have my inspiration to continue reading as well. Thank you for inviting me for this conversation. It's really wonderful to see you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. All the best. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare